All right, welcome back to the program. Engineer Barry Esimone, founder, chief executive officer at Crossstream Group, is joining me right now. We're still talking about this petrol subsidy conundrum. Welcome to you, engineer, and thanks for joining us on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, let's get straight to business. Where should I even start now? I wanted to talk about the history, but we all know the history. Guys, if we have the card on at least the other presidents and the fuel hikes, we can take that. What we were able to do, the research, that's it, guys. The petrol hikes since 1999, at least you have an idea from what you're seeing on the screen right now, from President Obasanjo to President Buhari that just left, and for Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we're having different prices for different, for different prices for the same product across the country. Of course, even during Buhari, we were told, we know, petrol will sell for a certain price in Lagos, a bit cheaper than Abuja, but in other parts of the country, it will be like 50 naira or 100 naira more. But Engineer Esimone is right here with us. Can you really, because I know you're also in the sector, make us understand this petrol subsidy conundrum, really?
Yeah, thank you very much. There has been this issue of whether there is subsidy or not, whether it's just a scam or not. The truth of the matter is that there is a subsidy. There is subsidy in petroleum products sales in Nigeria. That's a fact. But whether it should be sustained or eliminated is a matter of government policy, how government wants to look at the welfare of the citizens. I recall in 2012, when there was a massive protest against the government of the day that wanted to remove the subsidy. And people claimed that it was a major fraud and there was no subsidy at all. The government that succeeded that particular government in 2015 actually spearheaded such a protest, only to come in and realize that it's not as simple as this thought. Yes, there are a lot of challenges with the implementation of the subsidy that is given. And it has to do with the transparency of the parties concerned. The party, in fact, in this particular matter is NNPC and the associated subsidiaries. And I argued, actually, that particular time, that government has not focused on the main challenge of connivance of constituted authorities in encouraging the scam that was at that point. Because it wasn't easy for anybody to bring in petroleum products without passing through a chain of security systems. The MPA, the Navy, the customs, and all that. And if you kept on chasing the trader and leaving the policeman, you're only wasting your time. Because the trader must mutate to survive. And if he doesn't have the connivance of the police along the line, when I say the police, I mean the regulatory agencies, if there is no connivance, he will not succeed. So there was a major connivance with those agencies, and nobody ever talked about that. Nobody ever investigated them. How were they able to be there and these things will pass through?
No, but there was an investigation that was even led by Ike Mokwede, the former chief executive officer of Access Bank at the time, the field verification committee or whatever. The thing is, we also know that I think there are also some cases in court as we speak right now. We saw some briefcase marketers. Those were mentioned at that time. I want to ask you, do you think, because people are still saying, okay, there's a scam there, there are transparency issues there right now. Do you think that there is still a scam going on? Bearing in mind that NNPC is also the sole importer, as it were, because after that, what we were now given was that, okay, let NNPC, which is a government agency, handle this. But NNPC will come to tell, anything NNPC tells us now is what we do, what we take. And because of that, NNPC has not been remitting money. It will has not been remitting money, giving money to central bank for the past, perhaps, God knows, 2 years or so, because they're supposed to be making monthly allocation in FX to the central bank, and it's not been doing that. and perhaps even FARC. So where does that leave us?
Thank you. Incidentally, I was on board the program when Ike Makwade investigated the panel, and I appeared before those panels.
Oh.
Yes, it was covered live.
Yeah.
I was on, I also appeared before the Senate committee, also before the House of Rep committee, exhaustively. I found that apart from Ike Makwade's committee, the Senate committee and the House of Rep committee were not genuinely interested in identifying the challenges to solve the problem. It became a political issue. Some of them decided to make even money out of that, to join what they thought they were excluded from. I'm sure we still remember the case of one honorable that had an issue with her. So those were the kind of things that happened at that time. Now the issue simply is this. We are facing the challenges of neglect. Government has neglected this particular aspect of the industry that directly touches on the citizens, the last mile, the fuel in your car. The PIA has come in, so many things on Nigerian content thing, but I tell people more importantly, we need to be sincere with our intention. Nigeria has been a net importer of petroleum products for a very long time. This is not the first time. Net importer of petroleum products. That's number one. Number two, our internal refining capacity, the volume allocated for internal refining capacity, is part of our OPEC quota. It's not gotten different from our OPEC quota. So when you hear about OPEC quota, our internal refining capacity is deducted from there. So it's the net that we take to the market to sell.
That's the remainder.
The remainder. I'm not
that
sure.
That means we're even shortchanging ourselves, as it were.
That is the position.
Yes.
Because talking about strategy to get out of this finally, you must understand this. There's a structural deficiency in the whole system. Now, like I argued at a point somewhere, I said, we should be talking about in downstream industry in Nigeria, we should be more or less talking about foreign content, not local content. Because it has been local content 100% all the while. NNPC and Nigerians control downstream 100%. And that's where we have the challenge in the country. That's how the 4 refineries were run down. It's under 100% local content. So there's something fundamentally wrong. That somebody needs to sit down and look at it properly and say, where are we getting it wrong? Most of the nations that produce crude oil refine crude oil as well. Nigeria used to refine in the past. Our total refining capacity is about 440,000 barrels per day. And it's come down to 0. And whenever you import petroleum products, it's an international product. You have no control over the price. The pricing is through what we call Platts system. And Platts is an international pricing system based on Rotterdam, London, Singapore. So if you subject yourself to such international product trade, you can but take the consequences back to your country. And the consequences is increase in price.
Now, with what you've just said right now, because everyone is now depending on the Messiah Dangote refinery. And I'm taking it with a bit of, I'm looking back and saying, okay, everything, all those things everyone is saying, no, it's the silver bullet, it's the silver bullet. When something is too good to be true to, you've got to investigate. Is Dangote refinery going to be that silver bullet? Because it's going to, has capacity of 650,000 barrels per day, capacity for petrol, at least he can give us that. My worry is also the issue of monopoly, just like we've also seen the Dangote in the cement area, that Dangote, and if he decides that price of cement will go up today, he decides that, of course, there are a few other players.
He only needs to talk to 1 or 2 people.
Yes,
and they move their prices.
The price goes up, because we saw that, I think, in the last 2 years or so. I'm not saying that we should discourage private investment, but I'm saying that is that silver bullet Dangote refinery. What can we also do to our refineries? Are they totally now moribund? I understand that so much billions of dollars have also gone into that place. The NNPC GCEO said, I think in the last 2 days, that crude oil for crude for petrol swap
Yes.
will end this year based on Dangote refinery,
Coming on stream.
modular refineries, and the government refineries also coming back because there's rehabilitation. So what's your view?
Please, there are so many myths around the petroleum refining industry in Nigeria of where the Dangote issue comes in, and you mentioned about the modular refineries. By the way, I need to correct that impression. Each time we talk about modular refinery, there is no refining technology called modular refinery. Modularization is a construction technology, not a refining technology. What they talk about, the proper name for it actually is a skid-mounted refinery. That's the one you can pick and drop. And they call it modular.
Not as complicated as
yes.
the other refineries
yes.
that we see.
Yes, it has its own challenges. It has its own limitations.
Yes, exactly.
Gross limitations, actually.
Yeah. Issues of pollution and all that.
Not even that. The best you can get out of it is extremely limited. Yes, because of the nature of our crude stream, the best you can get from that unit operates on a refining principle called topping unit. Topping unit. Straight distillation. Sometimes people talk about the illegal refineries in Niger Delta and all that. It's the same principle. It's basically a topping unit principle. Put heat onto a crude and get out the topping. That's the meaning. And that topping, you can't get PMS from there. Our challenge is PMS. Diesel has long been deregulated. Kerosene has been deregulated. Yeah. What you can get from such small units are diesel. So when they talk about, proliferation, bring modular refinery and all that, it will not touch on the soul of the nation, which is PMS volume output in the country. So we can look at that. We have suggestions on what the country needs to do to be able to address all those things. Now, to specifically go to your question about the support Dangote Refinery will give to the system, of course the support will be very welcome. And it will assist in some way, but I do not believe it's the silver bullet as people are expecting. One has not asked himself, why is there no other person across the globe over the decades that has built that capacity refinery? There's a reason for that.
There's energy transition.
And that's later event. Yeah, okay. No, that's not even the main issue. Okay. The main issue is that you can't put all your eggs in one basket, the common saying. If, for example, he wants to shut down the single train for maintenance, where will we get product from? So if you have money to deploy 650,000 barrels, it makes sense to break them into units and achieve the same total. The way Nigerian government has 445 spread over 4 refineries. So to put all of them as a one train, and when there's a shutdown, when there's a challenge, everything will wait until you fix it. But if you have spread it around here and there, when this one is down, the other one can supplement. So for me, that's a fundamental planning issue. He is a businessman. But
this is a one-man business.
That's why he's a businessman. Yes. He would have done his analysis, and he knows why.
And he may not have that kind of funds to be able to have Dangote Refinery Lagos, Dangote Refinery so places.
Why not? He doesn't have to have it another place.
Okay, yeah, he can actually.
Yeah, he doesn't have to have it. It can be within the same site.
Yes.
But configured differently. After all, Port Harcourt Refinery has 2 refineries.
2 refineries.
One is 60,000 barrels, the other one is 150,000 barrels. Combined is 210,000 barrels per day. It's a strategy in industrial development. You must have a strategy to be able to deal with challenge time. So the point here is this. When Dangote comes on stream, and from what we had, he had an agreement with NNPC. The NNPC investment is to enable him access crude oil from an NNPC. It's part of the investment strategy. So assuming that NNPC funds him 650,000 barrels every day, I'm sure you heard this morning that OPEC has come out with a slashed. Yeah. So our OPEC put on is about 1.38. Subtract 650 out of that. What do we have left?
Another 650.
Now, assuming for the purpose of this discussion that Port Harcourt Refinery comes on and it's still around 10,000 barrels, subtract it from the balance, what do you have?
About 400 or so.
That's all you are taking to international market. To earn all the effects you need to run our imports.
And that's not enough.
How can it be enough?
That's not enough.
We can punch calculator and know the exact amount that will be. Nobody has thought about this, that we're still
not sufficient.
I see, if you sell a monkey and buy a dog, you have a squatting animal still in your house. Haven't solved the problem. So trying to be able to deal with this issue of internal refining capacity, you must also know that it's part of your OPEC quota.
Okay. Director is telling me we need to go, but let's use 1 more minute to ask you the question. What should the government strategy be now to alleviate the suffering of people? NLC has given a notice for a strike action for Wednesday. What should be the strategy of government now?
For me, I think there's a window for the government to retract their steps. If I understand that the approval from the previous government was to the end of June. Strategically, I would have expected that he will make the announcement that by the end of June, there won't be subsidy. So he will use the month to engage with organized labor and discuss all issues before that particular date. The sudden pull of the plug, of course, we know what he has elicited. So I think that's the first thing to do, to revisit that, use the window he has, probably to say, okay, we will talk till the end of June when there is no more provision by law for subsidy, and then I can help at that point. So whatever negotiations and discussions should be able to be concluded before that, it will be easier for people to take it. I believe that. However, on the terms of the general solution to this malaise, we need to reconfigure our refining strategy. There are products, crude products, that are not OPEC regulated, that we still export, from where we can distill and get PMS while maintaining our export volume. That's where I think that we should start looking at.
Okay, I think we'll leave this conversation for now. We'll continue on another day. Let's see what happens. But thank you for your insights this morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
for having me.
I've been speaking with Engineer Barry Esimone, who is the founder and chief executive officer at Crossstream Group. We've been talking about the fuel subsidy conundrum. That's the much we can take on today's edition of the program. Please join me again, same time tomorrow on the station. Be the best you can be and be the change that you want to see. I am Nancy Naji.